Hello and welcome to our program. I'm Sarah Bellum, and today we'll be looking at how to achieve faster, more reliable operation of a brain after injury. The human brain is often compared to a computer. It's full of bits of information and able to make swift, steady connections. Brain cells called neurons send information in the brain. And just like a computer, the brain has many programs like the ones that allow us to move, think, and make decisions. These programs are created and stored by neuronal networks or connections between brain cells. To operate, a computer uses software, that is, a set of instructions, to tell it exactly what to do. Our brain also uses instructions that are very much like computer software, bits of information that include our knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs. The effects of alcohol and other drugs are different for people after a brain injury. This program presents facts about exactly how alcohol and other drugs affect people with brain injuries. And like computer software, these facts are ready to be installed, but you are the operator. If you or someone you know have had a brain injury, it's important for you to take time to watch this program, think about it, and decide what you'll do about the information presented. We hope after you've done that, you will install new software in your brain with a new set of facts, attitudes, and beliefs concerning alcohol and other drug usage. For more information on this subject, let's now go to our special correspondent, Neuron Al.
Thanks, Sarah. As you know, I'm a neuron, and therefore I know a lot about how the brain works. If you've had a brain injury, it is important to evaluate what you think about drinking and other drug use. Maybe you used to drink or smoke pot, but after a brain injury, there are many reasons why it isn't a good idea.
You're so right, Al. Alcohol, other drugs, and brain injury just don't mix, whether before or after an injury. 1 in 5 adults hospitalized with brain injury were drunk when they had their injury. 1 in 3 adults who need rehabilitation because of their brain injury were high when it happened. And after the injury, 10 to 20% of people with brain injury will develop substance abuse problems for the first time. Whether or not a brain injury was caused by using alcohol or other drugs, after an injury occurs, the brain reacts differently to those drugs. Everyone who has a brain injury should rethink their use of alcohol and other drugs. Let's check back in with Al to see what else we can learn.
Sarah, after a brain injury, using alcohol or other drugs may have serious risks. I've been joined by my good friend Ed Injury, who's looking on his computer for a program to help us learn more about alcohol and other drugs after a brain injury.
Well, hi, Al. Oh, there's the program. And there's the list of effects of alcohol on your brain.
Ed, why don't you click on that first one and we'll see how alcohol and other drugs affect recovery. Recovery means relearning by making new connections between neurons. Some brain cells or neurons are killed, and others are disconnected at the time of brain injury. Using alcohol and other drugs after brain injury gets in the way of your recovery by interfering with new connections between neurons. As a neuron, I send and receive information in the brain. I've lost a lot of my neuron friends to brain injury. You can help me from losing more by avoiding alcohol and other drugs.
Al, I'm interested in that second category on the list, problems with balance, walking, and talking. Can we take a look at that?
Well, sure, Sarah. Why don't you click on that, Ed? What are you doing now, Ed?
I'll tell you, Al, walking and talking is hard enough without these guys.
You're absolutely correct, Ed. For people whose brain injuries cause problems with balance, walking, or talking, alcohol and other drugs will make the problems even worse. Even without brain injury, alcohol and other drugs can make people lose their balance or fall down. People who've been drinking or using other drugs may also slur their speech. The problems walking and talking that have been caused by your brain injury will only be made worse by the use of alcohol and other drugs.
By the way, Al, that sweater you're wearing is really ugly.
Ed, I really don't think that's an appropriate thing to say, but it does bring us to our third point on the list. Do and say without thinking. Every brain has a program called Good Idea, Bad Idea. This program tells us what's appropriate and what's not. For example, we may think to ourselves that someone's sweater is really ugly, but good idea, bad idea keeps us from saying this out loud. For some people, a brain injury takes away the fine line between good and bad ideas and kind of lets it all hang out. Alcohol can also cause a person to say whatever comes to mind, no matter who it may hurt. Alcohol, together with a brain injury, shuts off the good idea, bad idea program, and that's a bad idea.
And that really ties into our next item, problems with thinking. It looks like Ed is really having an awful time trying to figure out which word is the one he wants to use. Many people have to learn new skills or relearn old ones following a brain injury. People have trouble with concentration, memory, word finding, problem solving, and other thinking skills depending on what area of the brain is injured. Alcohol or other drugs greatly interfere with one's ability to think and learn new things. Using alcohol and other drugs with your brain injury just makes thinking that much harder.
Don't look now, Al, but I think your pal Ed is in for a big surprise if he thinks that drink won't have any effect on him. I think it's going to sneak right up on him and hit him hard.
Look out, Ed! Don't you know that alcohol and other drugs have a more powerful effect following a brain injury? The brain is more sensitive to alcohol and other drugs after an injury. The same amount after a brain injury will have a more powerful effect. Also, alcohol and other drugs interfere with prescribed medications. You can lose the helpful effect of the medication or cause other medical problems.
Al, let's take a look at the next item on our list, depression. Being depressed is fairly common after a brain injury. Sometimes it's the injury to the brain that causes depression. It's also the change in a person's life that leads to depression. Everything is different. There are financial worries, losing friends, not being able to get out, and just plain boredom.
I'm just so sick and tired of sitting here and doing nothing. It's so boring. There's only so many video games a person can take.
Many people turn to using alcohol and other drugs in an attempt to make this depression go away. They say it makes them less worried, more relaxed, and happier. That may be true for a short while, but it will quickly make things worse. Alcohol depresses the brain, and that depresses you. You may think that alcohol and other drugs will give you a little lift, but in the long run, it's a major downer.
Sarah, the possibility of having a seizure is the next item we want to look at. Seizures are a problem for about 5% of the people who have serious brain injury. Even though that is a low number, seizures are serious and steps need to be taken to avoid them. Some people require anti-seizure medication. Mixing alcohol and other drugs with these medications is very dangerous and can increase your chance of seizure. Taking yourself off medications to drink is dangerous. Doubling up on anti-seizure medication in order to drink is also very dangerous. You need to be upfront with your doctor. If you are still drinking or using other drugs, you need to let your doctor know. Get all the facts and then use your brain.
And you know, Al, one thing that really stands out in my mind of all the things on our list is that the use of alcohol and other drugs can lead to another brain injury. Among people who've had one brain injury, the chance of a second injury is 3 times greater. Brain injuries alone may cause problems with balance, coordination, vision, and judgment that could lead to other injuries. If you add to that risk by drinking alcohol or using other drugs after your brain injury, you're only increasing the likelihood of having another injury. And remember, with each brain injury, it takes less of a blow to cause greater harm. Your brain just won't recover as well. Well, Al, that about wraps up our look at the effects of alcohol and other drugs after a brain injury. I want to thank both you and Ed for helping us go through that list.
It was our pleasure,
Sarah.
And I want to thank our viewers for joining us today. Remember, you are the key to your recovery. You have to consider the facts and decide if drinking alcohol or taking other drugs is worth the risks. It's your decision. But remember, when making your choice, completely avoiding alcohol and other drugs will help lead you to a better recovery, better thinking, better balance and coordination, better speech, and less chance of depression, seizures, or another brain injury. On behalf of all of us here at the Ohio Valley Center, I'm Sarah Bellum, wishing you a speedier recovery without the use of alcohol or other drugs.